Hi everyone, my name is Shachaf Snir, and I will be moderating this meeting, this session today. I'm extremely excited. We have some very interesting people on the line to share some of their experiences. A few words about myself. I am the Director of Internal Innovation for Clalit Health Services. Clalit is basically the biggest provider of health services in Israel, caters more than half of Israel's population, about 4.5, 4.6 patients, customers, and when I was approached to and asked to moderate this this session about the challenges of COVID-19, one of the things that first popped to mind when I thought of my experience in Israel is the fact that during this past year we've seen a lot of challenges. I think that many of them were familiar to us. We knew them, but they were much more challenging than ever before. And one of the things that we saw very clearly, at least in Israel, and I think that we're seeing it also on a global level, is the fact that in order to face these amazing challenges that are fascinating and challenging, we need to work together. And we're seeing it in Israel very clearly. We're seeing new collaborations, new business models, new ways of making business, of doing business with new partners from different industries, from abroad. And we're definitely seeing this trend on a global level. And I think that this is one of the things that will be very interesting for us to talk about in this session today. How can we see new collaboration and new ways of doing business together? So I want to hand over the stage to pass over the stage to Ambassador Anan. Ambassador Anan is the Danish ambassador in Turkey. He's holding this position after 5 years of ambassadorship in Tehran. He's been at the he's been in service of the Royal Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs for the past 2 decades. And much of that time was working in the Middle East in foreign policy, and I think that I'm looking forward to hearing his introduction. Yes, Ambassador Anan.
Thank you very much, Mr. Snir. I would also like to start by thanking the co-organizers of this event today. And also thank you, Mr. Snir, for stressing the importance of working together, because that is absolutely essential if we are to face the challenges facing the global community today. Our meeting today is actually the second regional webinar in a strategic market development project that aims to increase partnerships between Denmark, Turkey, and Israel in healthcare innovation. But I would also like to underline that the Danish Ministry of Foreign Affairs has a much wider reach in this region. In addition to Turkey and Israel, it also has trade missions in Greece, Croatia, Bulgaria, Romania, and Serbia, which are grouped together in the market region of Southeastern Europe. Furthermore, Tel Aviv is home to the Danish Innovation Center, and the job of that center is to help Danish research institutions and companies to gain access to foreign knowledge, networks, technology, capital, and market opportunities. So what does this all mean when it comes to life sciences and technology? It means that with an extensive network, we are in a good position to introduce Danish innovative solutions in life sciences to all these countries. Denmark's life science industry is internationally recognized for pioneering products and services. The country is home to world-class facilities and scientists. That makes Denmark a highly attractive partner and place for drug development, technology, and medical technology research. The Danish life science cluster is also marked by strong partnerships between companies, public healthcare authorities, and universities, which promotes growth, research, and innovation. This is backed by the political will to ensure the right conditions for research and business development. Today, Danish companies are global leaders in the treatment of diseases such as diabetes, mood disorders, and skin diseases. They're also among market leaders in the field of medical technology and supplies. This has made the Danish life science industry into an economic powerhouse with exports of almost 20 billion euro last year. Furthermore, having started out early with digitalization in healthcare, Denmark has plenty of experiences and know-how to share in order to transform healthcare systems as they address challenges such as aging populations, chronic diseases, and expensive treatments. The COVID-19 pandemic has shown us just how important the life science industry is. Along with general healthcare systems, it is the life science companies that are at the forefront of the efforts to contain and find a vaccine for the novel coronavirus. We need new and innovative solutions and medicines to be able to mitigate disruptions to healthcare systems like the one now triggered by COVID-19. As a global leader, the Danish life sciences cluster is ready to respond to this challenge. The cluster is open to regional and international cooperation to make strides in the development of new products and technologies. In my opinion, Israel and Turkey are perfect candidates for partnerships with Danish life sciences and technology companies. There is technological investment in the region, and there's emphasis on digital transformation, which has allowed for local success stories in building public and private partnerships. I believe that Danish stakeholders can contribute to the efforts of ensuring more startups and addressing possible shortcomings in the local innovative business environment. There are many opportunities in Turkey and Israel for cooperation. The Trade Council in Istanbul and Innovation Center in Tel Aviv stands ready to help Danish companies and startups break into these new markets. We have dedicated experts in both countries who will assist Danish companies to navigate local legislation and connect with the right partners. I truly believe that such international cooperation will push us closer to achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. The transformation of healthcare systems with the contribution of the life science industry will move us towards ensuring healthy lives and promoting well-being for all at all ages, which is enshrined in SDG number 3. I would like to thank all once again for the opportunity to speak at this webinar. And I now leave the floor to my co-panelists to detail the innovative solutions that Denmark has to offer in life sciences and technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador Anand, for your thoughts. And now I'm leaving the floor for Dr. Martin Westerby. He's the Health Adoption Manager and Entrepreneur at the Health Tech Hub in Copenhagen. And Martin has been the Health Tech Adoption Manager at the Health Tech Hub Copenhagen Hub for the past 2 years. He's an influential entrepreneur, and looking forward to hearing what he has to say. Martin.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for having the chance here to present some of the works that we have been doing here in Denmark, but also some of the challenges that we have been facing, because what I'll try to address in this short keynote is some of the obstacles that we have faced, but also the need for reaching out and learning across borders to try to accommodate some of the issues that we are facing here. And that is the main reason that I'm so glad that I'm invited to speak here today with not only the distinguished co-speakers, but also with the companies ranging from big companies from Denmark to small startups. And I think the diversity in the presentations is also quite intriguing and fascinating. As you said, my background is a MD. I have a PhD in innovation and telemedicine. I've been working with startups since I was a medical student. I like working with startups. I like the environment around the agile mindset of people that are facing everyday problems and trying to solve them. So I've actually been working with startups ranging from systems to logistics systems to hospitals to whiskey distilleries. Might sound like there is a giant gap between those two companies, but just the mindset of facing something every day that you need to fix is so important. Also, when you are looking at the COVID-19 and the way that we try to adapt to the challenge that we are seeing here. The Health Tech Hub Copenhagen has an overall aim, and that is to break the adoption bottleneck in healthcare, meaning that we would like to see more solutions from the tech world enter the digitalized world of healthcare and try to improve the life of not only Danish patients, but around the world. We have the overall goal that are the same as the SDG, that we would like to influence and impact health of many people. And we have done that by creating a hub where we are hosting now 21 companies, but also have a database with close to 200 Danish companies that are creating solutions for the healthcare sector, ranging from child and youth health, diagnostics, health behavior, disease management, mental health, women's health, healthy agents, but also platform and logistics. And at the same time, we are at the hub trying to work with influencing decision makers, not only in high-end decision makers in the political field, but also in the organizations that are connected to the patients and the healthcare sector in Denmark. And we are trying to make people see that tech and digitalized solutions can be of great value, especially when you are facing times of change, as we are now here with the COVID-19. One of the first initiatives that were done here in the Health Tech Hub was creating actually a global call for action, where we have created a catalog that you can go and download on our webpage, where there's a bunch of solutions that are presented that might be able to support hospitals and GPs in regard to supporting their patient during COVID. And what we have seen in Denmark is that the overall aim for the solutions that we see working in Denmark is based on the COVID-19 is actually quite a paradox, because right now we are working a lot to keep patients out of the hospitals. And what we are seeing is that the solutions that get the most tractions are the solutions that support perhaps video consultations. We have seen an extremely high increase in the use of video consultations between GPs and patients, but also from hospitals to patients. We have seen different digital solutions that increase communication between healthcare providers and relatives and patients. And we can see now that we are getting into this use of technology, that actually in the area of psychiatry, there is a high uptake of these solutions. And the psychiatrists are actually quite good at using the solutions for connecting with their patients. We can also see that we have a major issue in regard to all the planned procedures that we have cancelled. Overall in the world, it is estimated that 28 million operations are cancelled based on COVID. So we have a backlog of a lot of surgical procedures we are facing over the next month. And right now we are trying to accommodate that by reaching out to patients through digital solutions and try to support them in their waiting time, where they are still suffering from pain and not acute disease, but still are in a limbo because they don't know when they're going to get their surgery. So we are trying to support them. And the last area where we are trying to implement the technology is in the area of triage, prioritizing the patient that are suffering or having diseases where we have to see them. We are doing that with the AI in regard to making the best decisions for bringing the right patients into the hospitals. We are doing it with AI in regard to making fast decisions, both in the area of cardiology, but also radiology. So we use technology to try to help the healthcare providers take the best possible decisions in regard to the patients that we are actually having the time and the resources to see. Denmark is evaluated as the most digitalized health sector in the world. that has given us some advantages during this process, but still there's a lot we can learn, and there's a lot of learnings that we have gained during this process that we would like to share. And I hope this meeting and what we're doing today could be the first steps to share those learnings, but also reach out to companies across borders and make sure that we try to co-create and design the best solutions for our different healthcare sectors, but still for patients suffering from the same diseases and having the same fears and anxieties, so we can in best possible way try to help them. Thank you so much for letting me have these few minutes, and best of luck to all the rest of the speakers and the rest of the conference today.
Thank you, Martin, for sharing. I think it's fascinating to see how some of the digital challenges are intertwined with a lot of human challenges about patients and people eventually. So it's really interesting to see how that mashes together. I think we'll touch on that more during the session. So now I'd like to hand over the stage to Dr. Burak Sem. Burak is the Vice President and General Manager of Novo Nordisk Turkey. He's graduated from Ankara University Medical Faculty in 2002, and since then he's been working at Novo Nordisk in strategic operations in the Gulf, in India, in the Egypt region, and he's been the general manager in Turkey since 2016. Looking forward to hearing what you have to say. Dr. Sem.
Chronic diseases are an urgent global health challenge. Almost 500 million people have diabetes. More than 700 million people live with obesity. How can we put a stop to this? Novo Nordisk has produced insulin since 1923. We have the heritage and expertise to defeat diabetes and other serious chronic diseases, such as obesity, rare blood and endocrine disorders. We are thousands of passionate, skilled and committed colleagues. Producing life-saving medicines is our key contribution. But it takes more than medicine to defeat serious chronic diseases. That is why we provide access to affordable care for vulnerable patients in every country and work to prevent the rise of type 2 diabetes and obesity. Our ambition is to be sustainable, adding value to society and to our future business. We drive change to defeat diabetes and other serious chronic diseases.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shahab. Hello, everyone. It is a great pleasure to be here today. Thank you for inviting. Novo Nordisk is a global healthcare company founded in 1923. We operate in 80 countries, provide services to more than 170 countries. By market value, we are among the world's 10 largest pharma companies. As Novo Nordisk, we have breakthrough therapies for diabetes, obesity, rare blood and endocrine disorders. But apart from all, we are proud to have global heritage and expertise in diabetes. We were established nearly 100 years ago, actually the same time with the Turkish Republic in 1923. Next year, 2021, is a milestone for all of us and people with diabetes, because it will be 100 years anniversary for discovery of insulin, a key moment in scientific and diabetes history. Today, globally, 30 million people use our diabetes care products. Half of the world's insulin is supplied by Novo Nordisk. We have a unique position. Novo Nordisk Foundation is a majority shareholder in Novo Nordisk. What does this mean? This means foundation enables Novo Nordisk the sustainable environment to invest in research areas that improves the lives of people. Our ambition is to defeat diabetes. We have top 3 R&D ambition globally. Number 1, cure type 1 diabetes with stem cell to beta cell treatment. Number 2, change type 2 diabetics' lives by inventing glucose-sensitive insulin. And number 3,
bend the curve on the rise of obesity. What do I mean when I say glucose-sensitive insulin? Because it's an interesting subject. Let me show you a video that describes best. Now I will show a video.
Over the past 100 years, physicians and scientists have searched for a method to deliver insulin using an oral capsule. However, the walls of the gastrointestinal tract prevent the uptake of large molecules such as insulin. A team of scientists from MIT, Harvard, Brigham and Women's Hospital, and Novo Nordisk have developed a breakthrough capsule technology which overcomes this barrier. After a patient ingests the capsule, it autonomously inserts insulin into the top layers of stomach tissue. Inspired by the unique shape of leopard tortoises, which allow them to self-right from any orientation, the team designed a novel system with the ability to consistently orient and release the drug into the tissue wall. The self-orienting millimeter scale actuator, known as SOMA, consistently delivered insulin with an efficiency comparable to injection in our preclinical evaluation.
This new pill will be breakthrough therapy. Novo Nordisk will change the narrative in type 2 diabetes. But we cannot succeed alone. Our ambition is high. We need partnership. We are creating breakthrough science in collaboration with our partners. Novo Nordisk have partnership with more than 50 leading institutions globally. With this, Novo Nordisk is also committed to making digital health solution for people with diabetes and their caregivers. No doubt that digital health solutions improve the way diabetes medicines are used. First of all the tests and recordings are done easier and more accurate. Then doctors understand better and adjust patients' medication needs accordingly. Why is digital health important for Novo Nordisk? Because it helps people with diabetes. Despite the huge potential of today's diabetes medicines, people with diabetes must constantly monitor their diet, exercise, and medication. Through innovative digital health solutions, we can help patients and healthcare professions to significantly reduce the daily burden of diabetes management. But it takes more than medicine to defeat diabetes and obesity. There is another big challenge to bend the rising curve in diabetes: urbanization. The world is rapidly urbanizing. World Health Organization described non-communicable diseases as a new urban pandemic. Did you know that 2/3 of people with diabetes live in urban environments? Today, 1 in every 11 people in the world has diabetes. Huge number. A figure that is projected to rise to 1 in 9 by 2045, unless action is taken. This puts big pressure on the health system and also for pharma sector. So we started City Changing Diabetes with the aim to drive action against type 2 diabetes and obesity on global scale. Our ambition is to raise the issue on global health agenda. For this, you need to collaborate with a wide range of stakeholders across the city system, from city governments, academics, business, schools, and associations, and other NGOs. City Changing Diabetes was initiated in 2014 by 3 global partners: Steno Diabetes Center, University College London, and Novo Nordisk. Today, more than 36 cities have partnered, representing more than 150 million citizens. Copenhagen, Houston, Johannesburg, Mexico City, Rome, Shanghai, Vancouver are some of the cities in the program. We call on every city to ask itself, what will it take to bend the diabetes curve in your city? I'm proud to say that Istanbul is also accepted in the program in 2019. It is the first city that it accepted with a focus on childhood obesity. If we can bend the obesity curve today, we can decrease in the future prevalence of diabetes. We believe we should take action to stop these diseases before they start. That is why our focus for Istanbul will be on childhood overweight and obesity. We signed our memorandum of understanding with Istanbul municipality and with the 2 leading associations on World Obesity Day on 4th March 2020, this year. I would like to thank the Danish consulate for their continuous effort and support for enabling this project. Just 9 days before the first COVID-19 case was officially announced in Turkey. Yes, unfortunately, our lives have suddenly and enormously changed with another pandemic, COVID-19. Chronic diseases management became more important. We all became more aware of the fact that people with diabetes and obesity are at higher risk if they get COVID-19. To support this, I like to share a recent study. It is published in August this summer in PubMed. PubMed is a very reputable scientific arena. It clearly shows that the people with obesity were at a higher risk to get infected, 46%, at higher risk to get hospitalized, 113%, and higher increase in deaths, almost 50%. I recovered from COVID-19 also 3 weeks ago. It was not an easy time for me and for my family. I don't want to know what could have happened, how severe the symptoms would it be if I hadn't lost 10 kgs last year. Of course, there is still a lot to understand about the relationship between chronic disease and COVID-19. What COVID-19 does, it brings the severity of chronic disease into the agenda and unfortunately clearly show us the need for urgent action. We have COVID today, but hopefully soon it will be history. It will pass away. But diabetes and obesity are lifetime disease. Our purpose is to defeat diabetes and other serious chronic diseases. That purpose is now more important than ever before. To fight against on personal level, we have our initiative, innovative therapies, life-saving drugs. To fight against on every level, we have global partnership programs like City Changing Diabetes, partnership with UNICEF for childhood obesity, etc. Because we are the world's leading foundation company, we are Novo Nordisk. We are responsible of the community we live in. And you are responsible of your own health and you loved ones. So take action today. Each and every kg counts. If you are overweight, for every 5 kg you give, you gain 1 more year to live. Starting from today, promise yourself to manage your diet, do your exercise, and live well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Sem. I have to share that I had the privilege of working with the representatives of Novo Nordisk in Israel in improving the patient journey of diabetic patients. And I found that the challenge is huge and really fascinating, because on the one hand, the danger is very clear, but it's very hard to create engagement and compliance. And thank you for sharing these insights and this information. Looking forward to hearing more of you following this along in the session. Now I want to hand over the stage to Dr. Ali Bora Bash, which is the Regional Sales Director of Radiometer. Ali Bora has been working for Radiometer for the past 10 years, starting as a general manager in 2010, has a lot of experience in the field of healthcare, and looking forward to hearing your input. Dr. Bash.
Thank you very much, Mr. Senior. Hello, everyone. My name is Ali Borabash, and I'm the country sales manager and regional sales director for Southeast Europe, including Israel. So I would like to talk to you about Radiometer's digital solutions in the era of post-COVID-19. But before that, I would like to give you some history about Radiometer, which was established by 2 Danish engineers who were manufacturing radio electronic instruments for the growing radio industry in 1935. Then, in the summer of 1952, Radiometer's path changed forever. When Europe afflicted by a serious polio epidemic, many children died because of respiratory failure. And Radiometer developed an instrument to measure pH of the blood with 2 Danish doctors, Professor Astrup and Professor Ibsen. This instrument, which is called Astrup trolley later on, had to prevent respiratory failure by determining children's respiratory status. This cooperation changed Radiometer's path forever. In 1954, Radiometer developed world's first commercial available blood gas analyzer. Since then, we have refined our blood gas testing knowledge and experience and continue to advance our acute care diagnostic solutions. For example, our newest blood gas analyzer, ABL90 Flex Plus, can deliver blood gas results with 19 parameters in just 35 seconds with only 65 microliters of blood. And especially like the polio epidemic in 1952, nowadays with the COVID pandemic, we are also playing a very critical role in monitoring the patient's respiratory status with our instruments. In addition, Radiometer's immunoassay analyzer, ABL90, can test for 9 different biomarkers to support healthcare professionals in making timely diagnosis of conditions such as acute myocardial infarction, heart failure, respiratory failure, pulmonary embolism, and sepsis within results in 11 to 21 minutes. Especially D-dimer is playing a key role in monitoring of COVID patients to see their prevalence. Today, as the global market leader with blood gas testing, we continue to help healthcare professionals to make sure life comes first through connected solutions, expert knowledge, and trusted partnership. Radiometer makes a huge impact in global healthcare, especially nowadays with COVID, because every second, 7 samples are tested in our instruments, which makes 420 in a minute, more than 25,000 in an hour, and more than 600,000 in a day. In total, more than 220 million samples are tested yearly on radiometer analyzers around the world. And our worldwide turnover is almost $850 million, and we have more than 40% market share in blood gas market. So we are playing in point of care environment, which is a big challenge in hospital environment nowadays. Due to this environment is highly regulated, it's multi-site, spread around different departments and even buildings, and integrated in many different solutions, and it's very complex. And point of care testing is a challenge for all healthcare professionals. Because workload and efficiency is very critical for the limited resources that we have at the hospitals nowadays, especially overly booked, the overload that created by COVID. Of course, analyzer downtime is very critical because we are delivering critical results for the patients. And large hospital environment is not making it easy. And because of the compliance and audit issues, paperwork is also a big challenge for the professionals, healthcare professionals today. And Radiometer solutions are offering remote support and work efficiency. This gives us an increased analyzer uptime. We can solve the problems remotely, so remote troubleshooting will save time of the healthcare professionals, which they can spend on their patients. Of course, digital reporting is very critical for all compliance and auditing issues. And just not this, but by solving the issues remotely, will reduce the risk of COVID exposure for the healthcare professionals. And of course, it's not just the healthcare professionals, but as our colleagues, our service team has challenges in this point of care environment. And workload efficiency is a key for them also. And travel, they need to visit each hospital each time they face a problem. And large hospital environment, of course, is a big challenge for them again. And because of the unplanned visits, when the instrument is down, is very challenging for our service colleagues. Of course, the COVID-19 exposure risk is always there at the moment. And with our remote solutions, remote support and remote troubleshooting will increase analyzer uptime. All type of reporting can be done online, and notification system will allow us to make proactive maintenance. And at the end, it will again reduce the risk of COVID-19 exposure. So our digital solutions Acure, which is helping us, our lab managers, to control all point-of-care devices at the hospital. By giving workflow excellence, they save time, which they can spend on treating their patients. This system supports compliance, and with proactive service and remote support, it increases analyzer uptime. And once again, because of fewer instrument visits, it reduces the risk of COVID-19 exposure. So Acure is an enterprise point-of-care IT solution that we provide, and it helps device management, operating competency management, compliance and accreditation management, sample flow management. It's not just for radiometer point-of-care devices, it is open for third-party connectivity, so hospitals can connect all the point-of-care devices, including glucometers and coagulометers around the different departments of the hospital. They can connect to Acure, and it has full integration with the hospital systems such as HIS or LIS. On top of Acure, we also have a system called LiveConnect, which is healthcare IoT solution from Radiometer. It's a plug-and-play system, open for all channel partners also, so it is possible, it's not only for Radiometer, but also our channel partners can support the hospitals. It allows us to support our installed base remotely. We can get all the data analytics by LiveConnect. It is designed to assist troubleshooting and also even possible to make software upgrades remotely. So Radiometer Turkey, where is in this journey, digital journey. We started in 2010 in Turkey by Radiometer, and then in 2011 we required a remote support system to support our highly growing installed base. So when we started, we used to have 70 analyzers in Turkey, and now we have more than 2,000 analyzers in Turkey. And all are connected to LiveConnect, which we support our users remotely without disturbing them physically at the hospitals. Radiometer has almost 50,000 installed base around worldwide, and 10,000 of them are already connected now to LiveConnect, and Radiometer Turkey has 15% of these connections. Also, in Acure, we have more than 1,300 AQT installations worldwide, and 22 of them are in Turkey with 247 instruments connected. Also from Turkey, we are supporting 20 countries, high growth market countries, where we have 30 Acure installations and almost also 260 instruments connected. On top of this, we have 4 Acure installations in Israel with 10 units, and we are also supporting them from Turkey with our IT team. So we are always saying that whatever comes next, we make sure lab comes first in Radiometer. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Bosch, for sharing your insights. I now want to hand over the stage to Jacob Mortensen, who is the Sales Director for UVD Robotics. Mr. Mortensen has been more than 20 years of experience doing international commercial product management, strategy, and sales, driving business development. Looking forward to hearing what he has to say about the subject. Mr. Mortensen, please.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to speak at this event. We are happy to be part of this exciting team, and I can see already now that I think the theme is spot on. I'm Jacob Mortensen, as mentioned, from UVD Robots in Denmark, and I'm here to speak to you about our innovation regarding creating safe environments and reducing infections, and therefore also saving lives every day. And it is the product that you see to your right that we will talk about today, our UVD robot. So let's just first look at the problem that we have is that we know that infections occur. We see that also, especially these days with the pandemic, but the problem didn't start with the COVID-19. There has always been a lot of antibiotic resistance, and the wise people say that by 2050, antibiotic resistance could equal something like 10 million deaths globally per year. And of course, that does not only relate to bad quality of life, but that also is a huge cost. Alone in the UK, the national healthcare system estimates that will be a cost of 66 trillion pounds every year. So, like it has already been mentioned in the presentations, the world is in need of innovative solutions, and we can hereby provide you a very innovative infection prevention solution. So what is it that we're going to talk about? Well, it's this UVD robot, which essentially is an autonomous device with integrated UVC light that whenever that light hits surfaces and also whatever air that it gets in touch with will disinfect those areas. So that would be handles, door handles, whatever you touch. And here are two examples from, in this case, hospitals, where they have drastically reduced bacteria and virus in the hospitals, and therefore also less people get infected while they are in the hospital. So what is it that we do? Well, the thing is with light, I mean, you can imagine that when you drive your car, the further away the light is from your the object is from the light on your car, the weaker the light. The same with UVC light. So therefore, it's important that you can move the light around to get close to the important surfaces. And that is the thing that we have done here. We've integrated it with an autonomous device. So this is a Danish technology. We have now the third generation, which is the one in the middle in the back, UVD robot, which has been sold to hospitals and non-healthcare facilities in more than 70 countries to date. And when I speak about non-healthcare environments, I'm speaking about airports, offices, kindergartens, schools, universities, libraries, basically everywhere where you have a large volume of people, high traffic, and the risk of contamination. So it's clinically proven. That means it's the only disinfection advice available which is clinically validated to disinfect while, as we call it, on the move. We have multiple awards. I think we just came to award number 20 recently as yesterday. One of the most important awards is that we actually voted the Robot of the Year in Europe, which is our Oscars in Europe. And what you can, what you have to take away is that you will get up to more than 99.99% of all known bacteria and viruses removed in less than 10 minutes per typical size room, office space, with a very, very low cost. But instead of me just explaining, I would like you, the moderator, to just show the first video so you can see how the robot works. So please start the video. From a patient room at a hospital, where you can clearly see that the lights are different. So what we have tried to explain is that whenever you have light, you also have shadows. And you want to avoid the shadows, because if you have shadows, you don't disinfect. And how can you do that? Well, you can either have someone from staff doing it, but as we just heard from the previous presentation, we have to make it more efficiently. So the autonomous device here makes sure that the robot goes around to all critical areas, ensuring the high exposure of UVC light. So please stop the video. And when I talk about clinical validation, for those of you that want to know what 99.99% means, you can see to your left that if you would normally have 1 million particles in a certain area, bringing that to a 99.99% reduction means that you have 10 particles left, so almost nothing. So if you had to go to 99.999%, you would have 2 left. So we are basically able to remove everything that could be a problem. It has been made very user-friendly. That was one of the main requirements. So it comes with a really nice integrated app and tablet software where you can go step by step, just like you would use your iPhone. And because it's a robot, it also means that it's a validated process, because it will do the same thing over and over again. And so you can keep track and ensure that you are not only maintaining your high level of disinfection and cleaning, but actually that you can also improve this way. I would like to show you a short video, so please start the next video and just go step by step forward. This is a real video, which is a typical scenario where the robot could be used. You will see the to your bottom right the clock running, and you will see to your top right the overview of this operating theater, which also includes like a preparation room and a scrub room and an anesthesia room. So the important takeaway here is that the robot will do the work while the staff is doing something else. In a matter of less than 9 minutes, the full area has been completely disinfected. And essentially this means that during a day, you can use the robot between procedures to ensure that the surfaces and the air is totally reset, and actually do it so fast that you can increase the number of surgeries per day. As Mr. Vesterby started out saying, there has been a lot of surgeries delayed due to COVID-19, but actually using this can help you increase number of surgeries. Yes, please move to the next slide. So now that COVID-19 is on everybody's lips, I just want to show you a really nice example. As mentioned, the UVD robot was not developed because of COVID-19. It was developed 5 years ago. That's why we are at the 3rd generation. So recent clinical studies have proven how little or how much UV light you need to kill COVID-19. So example that you have an office space like the picture in front of you, we know exactly how much UV light is needed. And the beauty with the robot is that as soon as it moves forward, it shoots the light out in 360 degrees through the UV tower. And so in a matter of 60 seconds, you can cover as much as 150 square meters in the air and more than 40 square meters of surface to be completely disinfected. And on top of that, of course, being a robot, you also can send in the robot in advance should you have an area, whether it be the hospital or a conference room in your office space or something else that has been at risk because of someone being, let's say, COVID-19 positive. Well, you can send in the robot first to make sure that the COVID is gone before you send in your cleaning staff. So with all that said, it is a very low total cost of ownership, which is also, of course, a critical thing for the customers around. So in summary, clinically proven to have a high disinfection rate, minimal impact to daily work, can be used in many healthcare and non-healthcare environments with a high user friendliness, multiple awards, and a Danish technology, the only CE and TÜV approved. With that said, I hope that gave you some inspiration. Would be welcoming a lot of questions. Thanks very much for your attention to this presentation.
Thank you, Jacob. Looks like an amazing technology and diverse use cases. Really interested to hear more about it. But before that, I want to pass over the stage to Sebastian Slech. Sebastian is the sales lead for North America Quality. He has worked for Quality since 2019, and before that at IBM for 4 years, and looking forward to hearing his contribution. Sebastian.
Thank you very much, and thank you for allowing us to be here with you all today. We've been looking very much forward to tell you a little bit more about Cordy. Cordy is a Danish startup founded in 2016 with one goal in mind. Our mission was to help every single medical professional make life-saving decisions. We work in the spectrum of emergency triage or health advice line triage, meaning the assessment of the acuity of patients across a number of different diseases. So we work with emergency medical services all across the globe, and we work with health advice lines and nurse advice lines everywhere where there's an interaction with a patient that needs an initial assessment before they enter the primary or secondary healthcare. So everything pre-hospital related. Let's see here if I can move. So Cordy is a technology company. We're a machine learning company, also known as artificial intelligence. Our technology is mainly founded on two pillars. One is the ability to understand the spoken language. We've built a technology that is able to understand the language that is being spoken in this very particular domain. And we're also then able to use the insights that we get from the language to feed back those insights to the medical professionals in real time. What does that mean? It means that we've trained our system on more than 7 million patient consultations across the globe. We've trained it to understand diseases. We've trained it to understand symptom keywords, everything that is meaningful in a conversation between a healthcare professional and a patient to help them triage better. We've built a technology that's able to understand more than 40 different pathologies, and today we understand more than 10 different languages and dialects. What's really important about our technology is that we're able to feed back everything to a medical professional in real time to help guide them on their way to the right decision for their patient. What is the best next action for any given patient based on their condition? So we're working on a wide spectrum of the healthcare sector, but we've of course also really put some effort into trying to assist during the COVID-19 pandemic. So we've built a suite of products for COVID-19. We call it Cordy's AI for COVID-19 that really covers the entire patient journey. The first step, and what we've seen a lot in the healthcare sector in general, is the introduction of these self-assessment tools. Everywhere we can go on the internet, and we can assess our likelihood of having COVID-19. What we very quickly saw with these types of self-assessment tools was that they, in general, are overly sensitive. So in general, very, very risk averse when it comes to giving recommendations for patients. And where the logic being that these tools are supposed to help relieve the strain on the healthcare system, they tend to risk doing the exact opposite. They tend to send more people to their doctor. They tend to send more people to the health advice lines, or they tend to send more people to the emergency medical lines. And that's of course one of the problems that we see with these types of tools, is that they are overly sensitive. So we build a technology that is able to run in the background of self-assessment tools based on our learnings from the emergency medical space and the knowledge we have from working with health advice lines, combined with our ability to understand what is going on in these conversations and extract everything that's meaningful out of those conversations. So one example is we work with the region of Copenhagen, the capital region of Denmark, and the public health advice line called 1813. They had a self-assessment checker available for their patients, and they asked us to provide artificial intelligence behind this self-assessment checker to make it much more personalized and to make it much more relevant for any given individual patient, and try to give the best possible advice in any given situation. What we found after we've implemented this solution in Copenhagen is that we're more or less on par with COVID-19 testing for the initial self-assessment of any given patient. And that of course means that we're able to then relieve the strain a lot more on the healthcare system, since we're not giving advice that is too sensitive, that is too risk averse, where we're not really sure. And this is really, really important for low to mid-risk patients who really seek to get that second opinion all the time. Is this really what I'm is this really my condition? Where we have a lot of confirmation bias, a patient in general wants that second opinion from human being. We're able to then really give them that specific advice that is very, very accurate and very, very close to the personal advice they would get from a medical professional, their doctor or a nurse. The second tool that we've built in this portfolio is the ability to gain some sort of pandemic foresight. So the results that we're getting inside our platform, every single assessment that is made or every single call that is made to the 911 or the nurse advice lines, but we're getting those results into our platform. And remember, because we have such a solid triage module that is able to triage very, very accurately on a very small foundation of information, we're all of a sudden able to get a real-time overview on a geographical level of where this pandemic is spreading. So for this city of Seattle, for example, one of the places where they're using our technology, we're able to provide them with a real-time view of down to the very, very neighborhood level of where do we see a spike in cases, where do we see an influx of COVID-19 happening, where should we make specific interventions based on this real-time data. And we can then start identifying these possible potential outbreak areas on a geographical level to then start making policy of how do we isolate the pandemic from spreading in this particular region. And then the third module that we've made is the COVID-19 triage application. This is the application that medical professionals, nurses, and call takers at emergency medical services are using. It's built on a set of standardized protocols, questions that they need to ask patients to get to the best conclusion. So we've adopted these protocols into our system. So the medical professionals best take at what the best questions is to get to the right conclusion. But what we've also done, since we can understand the language that is being spoken, and since we can listen into that patient consultation, we've built models that are able to autonomously, by listening to that conversation, detect whether or not this is a very high-risk COVID-19 patient. So we built this in collaboration with Copenhagen and with Seattle, two places that were quite early on in this global pandemic affected by COVID-19. We started building models and algorithms on their data, meaning their historic emergency calls, to see, can we train an algorithm to listen for the commonalities in patients that have COVID-19? And since we had the correct labels of an actual testing, a positive test for every single case, we could start teaching the machine to understand how does a COVID-19 sound like when it's being described by a patient. This was really, really important since at the early stages of the pandemic, personal protective equipment was very, very scarce, and it was difficult for regions to then decide who should be using it at any given time. So all of a sudden we could help call takers and first responders figuring out where should we allocate our PPE resources, who should be having the resources when they go out and interact with patients. And the final thing, and what we believe is really, really important, is that with self-assessment, or in general, when a patient is interacting with the healthcare system, one touch point is not nearly enough to give that patient a sense of security that the assessment that they've been given is the correct one. So we've built an automated AI agent that is able to then, once a patient has done a self-assessment or once a patient has called the health advice lines, then follow up with that patient on a daily, on an hourly, on a weekly basis, and do these automated either calls where it's a synthesized voice bot that is talking to them and checking up on their condition. Has it progressed to the worse or has it progressed to the better? But also by text. We can then keep a track on every single patient and give them that sense of security that they're being cared for by the system, something that we can't possibly do with human manpower. But by optimizing that and getting that information into our system of is a patient deteriorating or getting better, we can all of a sudden see where should we make specific interventions, which patients are all of a sudden moving from a mid to low risk group into a high risk group. And should we give those patients even more attention? So we're able to allocate our resources much better with these types of technologies. We're able to give patients much more personalized care. And this is all powered by the fact that we can use these novel technologies, use these machine learning technologies, artificial intelligence technologies to a point where they're strong enough to actually get meaningful information and process that information just as a medical professional would do. So we're really trying to alleviate a lot of the stress on the healthcare system by implementing these types of technologies. Thank you so much. That's a little bit about Cordy. Besides COVID-19, we're also working on a number of other different pathologies. Our goal is, of course, to be part of every single medical conversation and help the medical professional get to the right conclusion every single time. Thank you so much.
Wow, Sebastian, that was fascinating. It's amazing to see how can you incorporate so many channels, connecting with the patient and leveraging them with AI, not just to be proactive, but to create forecast or a seasoned forecast of what's happening next. That's amazing. Actually, I have personally many questions to ask all of you, but I think I'll give the stage first of all to our listeners. So we have a couple of questions coming in from social media from people that are listening right now. The first question is to Mr. Mertensen. Thank you for your inspiring presentation. And the question is, how do you foresee home treatment setups instead of hospital patient rooms with your innovative pipeline solutions? Do you see that in your future? You're on mute.
Sorry, thank you for the question.
All good.
So we have developed this for the hospital first of all, and then for all the non-healthcare environments professionally, because of what we know is a problem out there. Definitely, we have had also a lot of requests for advancing home care and lowering the risk of infection there. So we are also looking into having this as a service, that you have disinfection as a service, so to call it, that there will be options to, someone having this in the back of their van coming out to disinfect on request.
Cool. So who would be your customer segment? Are there people who are buying it for their homes, or is it something that I can pay for a visit? Is that the plan?
It could be both. I mean, we would work through a reseller and distributor network, but essentially the end customer, the one that can benefit from this, could be anything from either down to a private home, should that be the case. Because we know infections can now happen everywhere, as we have just seen with the current pandemic.
Amazing, fascinating. Thank you for that. I think the next question, I think it's addressed to Martin. What are the biggest challenges that need to be addressed when you wish to utilize and implement technologies like AI or machine learning in the healthcare sector?
I think there are many issues, but we as clinicians might be one of the biggest barriers. We have a tendency to think that our background in our education is crucial for making the right decisions, and coming to terms with the fact that the technology that Sebastian presented here and different solutions like that can actually support us in our decision making is a barrier. Also making sure that we get some kind of feedback loop as clinicians, that when we have made decisions based on the predictions of the technology, that we are sure that the patient are moving in the right direction, are getting better. So feedback loops implemented in solutions like this is quite crucial for us as clinicians to be sure that we are getting the right support, and when we are leaving the patient, that we are leaving the patient with comfort that we have supported the technology and the technology has supported us in the best possible way. So clinicians is the short answer.
It's a good. It's okay. I'd like to have a follow-up question on that. I'm part of Clarity Innovation and Clarity Health Services, and we have a large institute that works with our data and develops solutions. And one of the things that we noticed is that we need to make sure that solutions that are AI-based should not replace physicians, but rather complement them. And this is something that we're trying to emphasize when we design products that will be used for physicians. Do you find the same conflict between the both?
Yeah, it's perhaps a bit provocative, but me being a doctor might be able to say it. I think we need to look at technology as something that can give us knowledge, and consultancies and doctors will bring out the knowledge to the end users. And that have changed the way that we look at the doctor. For the one who is carrying the knowledge, he or she is the holder of knowledge that is sharing it. Now the doctor of the future will be a doctor that in many ways will be one who has access to a bunch of data that is presented by machine learning or AI, and in that way be a facilitator of that data to the patient in a way where the patient understands what is going to happen, because they need some interpretations, that need some kind of translations of the predictions to a way where it can be implemented in the treatment. But again, you can look into research in the area of overconfidence. We're working with a field here where there's a lot of tradition, and we are making a huge leap when we are taking those decisions into technology. And again, we are changing so much right now. So again, back to the clinicians, we need to work with that.
Thank you, Martin. It's fascinating. I can go on, but I won't. I'll brace myself. So I'm moving into the next question that is coming in from our listeners. This is addressed to Ambassador Anand. What will be the economic contribution of this cooperation by three countries in other countries in the region, especially Turkey? Can you give a figure?
I'm not quite sure I understand the question, but from the Danish government side, we are, of course, trying to do everything to promote this cooperation between the countries, and we are at the service of Danish companies who would be in need of a partner in Turkey or Israel.
Okay, cool, great, thank you. And I think that we are really nearing the end of our talk, and maybe I'd like to conclude with a final question that's addressed to all of you. So we've heard a lot of different technologies and different business models, different points of view on how we can tackle the crisis of COVID-19. If you could translate out of your talks one actionable takeaway, something that the people who are listening to us should do differently now, what would it be? I'll start with Ambassador Anand.
No, I think the buzzword is working together. It's cooperation. We need to reach out private partnerships, private-public partnerships. We heard Novo Nordisk mentioning cooperation with 50 leading institutions. I also know that a lot of other companies are, of course, doing the same, but I think that is the key word. Thank you.
Thank you. Martin, on to you.
I think it's important that when you're venturing into an area where there's not that much evidence, because this is a new field that we're looking into, that you bring in strong cases that make decision makers convinced that we're moving in the right direction. When you are facing a pandemic and the decision makers are stressed, they have a tendency to say no to anything that is new. And we need new solutions right now. So you need to build strong cases in the companies, but also across connecting, so you can see that it's scalable when you're presenting solutions that are perhaps the solutions to COVID and the way that we are now facing a decrease in productivity and connection between patient and healthcare providers. So strong cases moving in the direction of strong evidence.
Thank you. It's a good point. Burak?
Thank you very much. As I mentioned in my speech, actually, this COVID will pass away one day, but the obesity and diabetes will continue to be a big problem to all of us. So take action today. Every kg, every kilo counts. So take care of your diet, exercise, and also to continuously talk with your healthcare professions and control your diabetes and lose weight in order to live longer. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ali Bora.
So thank you. So it's clear that Internet of Things and artificial intelligence will be our future. So as medical device manufacturers, we should build them into our instruments from the beginning. So we have to develop our systems based on especially AI. where we can guide or help more to our healthcare givers. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Jacob?
Yes, very much aligned with Martin Westerby there in building the strong cases and connecting the right instances, as also Mr. Anand says, between private public companies and institutions and especially the healthcare organizations like we know them. So asking for a high level cooperation.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Sebastian?
Yeah, I think I could echo every one of the panelists' messages, especially Ambassador Anand and Martin Westerby. I think what we do at Cordy every single day, and one of our biggest challenges is to question existing paradigms and accepting new ones, and especially accepting new ones where there's growing evidence. And I think that's what we've been trying to trailblaze in Cordy, is to really build evidence for these new paradigms of AI and machine learning in healthcare. So that would be my key message.
Great. So if I want to recap, basically what we're saying is we need to build smarter solutions, smarter machines, smarter software that is evidence-based, that helps us maybe tackle or validate some of the assumptions that we have in this era of very extreme uncertainty. And the best way to do that is working together, is collaborating between regions, between companies, between people. I think that what we've done here is a great step towards that direction. Thank you for inviting me to moderate. It was a fascinating discussion. Looking forward for the next talks. So thank you very much to all the speakers.